Planning Commission meeting. We'll call attendance.
Miller. Jackamore.
Here.
Cothran, present. Monfee. Hatley. Duffield.
Here.
Choate.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Black.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, we approve of the minutes. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor, state aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to old business. We got a request to table by applicant. I need a motion.
Move. Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, state aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll go into new business, large-scale development located at the corner of North Houston and West Parkway Drive, submitted by PK Development for the Point 2 at Russellville. We got a staff report.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So this is a large-scale development. It is adjacent to the other Point Phase 1 that is under construction. You can kind of see in the picture at the bottom how it is currently under construction to the west of this property. This is a vacant parcel of land along West Parkway Drive. And in this area, you will see a mix of commercial and residential uses. The zoning across the railroad tracks to the south is C4. The rail yard is M2, heavy industrial, and then properties all surrounding this and north of this are Downtown Crossing Zone and Prairie Creek Zone, and they are all within the El Paso Mixed Use District. There are several review comments that I do want to review with you today. The proposal is construction of a mixed-use complex with 32 residential units and 7 commercial spaces, and obviously is subject to large-scale development. The downtown crossing zone is intended to provide appropriate development opportunities to take advantage of connection and access to downtown, while providing appropriate transitions to pedestrian-oriented development within the district. Careful focus on pedestrian and bicycle connectivity is the key to implementing quality improvements in this zone. Site plan review is required and will be completed prior to the issuance of a building permit. Article 2.18.5 addresses the area regulations. Within this zone, there are build-to requirements, meaning that one must build closer to the front and side property lines than in other areas of the community. The requirements are that the structure is located within 20 feet of the front and side property lines along the primary rights-of-way. And those are the two areas in red on the bottom drawing there. We need to make sure that they're within 20 feet of both of the right-of-ways along those corners. Article 2.18.6 is the parking regulations. They are proposing 19 new parking spaces. As I mentioned, this is a 32 residential unit and 7 new commercial spaces, which is not adequate. They did submit plans, which I have on the smaller image here is the conceptual future parking addition that does address that. We have not completely reviewed that, and that can be completed with site plan review, but we will have to confirm that they are meeting the regulations for parking. A parking statement and analysis will need to be provided. Article 2.18.8 addresses the first floor height requirements, which shall be a minimum of 12 feet clear for non-residential units. According to the elevations that they provided, they are just shy of that, so they will need to provide documentation on how they are meeting that. Article 2.18.9 is the architectural standards and design guidelines. These regulations ensure sustainability and visual quality of the corridor, and confirmation will be required during site plan review. Architectural requirements include the horizontal expression line, articulation, and transparency, showing compliance with the no less than 50% of ground floor and 15% of the upper story levels for the transparency. A comprehensive list of facade materials specifying primary and secondary material with percentage of coverage. Clear definition and confirmation of each entrance with a minimum of 2 items from the permitted list. Screening of utility and mechanical equipment to ensure they are not visible from the public view. Compliance with the requirements for dumpster enclosures. And the parking lot shall be screened from view by a side obscuring fence, wall, or hedge. And that is outlined in Article 2.18.9. Article 2.1810 addresses landscaping. Street trees, buffer, and parking lot, both interior and street screening requirements shall be met. The only landscaping permitted within the right-of-way are the street trees. The yellow line on this image does show the property line, and as you can see, there are shrubs proposed within the right-of-way, and so they will need to be within the limits of the property to show compliance with the regulations. Street trees are required every 50 feet within the right-of-way. Engineering does have some comments. Total square footage is not equivalent from pre to post drainage maps. Looking at contours, if drainage area A2 is draining to the detention from phase 1, can that detention hold the extra runoff, including phase 1 when modeled? Why are drainage areas A6 and A5 separated? Need details and limits of ditch grading. Show required street improvements. Buildings downspouts need to be designed to the 100-year storm. And if the additional parking is added, the hydraulics will need to be addressed to address the additional impervious area. As I said earlier, they have submitted some additional plans. We have not had time to review those to see if any of those have been met, but they will need to be in compliance prior to building permit issuance. So as a result of this, staff does recommend to approve the large-scale development to allow construction of phase 2 of the point with the following conditions. Receive approval for the site plan review prior to the issuance of a building permit. Comply with the area requirements regulations. Provide a statement of parking analysis and show compliance with the parking requirements listed in Article 2.18.6. Provide plans showing compliance with Articles 2.188, 2.189, and 2.1810, along with submit civil site plans showing compliance with the regulations regarding drainage. This is all as a result of the findings that the applicant has expressed their commitment to adhere to the zoning regulations as identified in the staff report, and the applicant demonstrates compliance with the regulations within Section 7 of the Land Subdivision and Development Code. Are there any questions?
It appears to me they haven't met all their obligations to this board yet, or this commission.
Yes, sir, there are some items that are required as part of the as the requirement for the large-scale development. Staff does feel that they are committed to coming into compliance, and we can confirm those with site plan review. However, if the Planning Commission would prefer to see all of those in compliance prior to approval, you do have the option to table this application at this time and have them come into compliance. But they have committed that they are going to come into compliance, so you do have that option either way.
Any more questions? All right, thank you. Okay, does the applicant have any comments they want to speak of?
Sure.
Just state your name for the record.
Kerry Kuykendall, I'm owner of PK Development, who's developing the project next door. So in compliance with working with the city, we're trying to do our best to follow and adhere to the basic things that they're asking of us to do. I think our commitment of $7.5 million next door shows a commitment to the city of Russellville, as well as the purchasing of 9 additional parcels and 10 acres behind a warehouse. So our projections over the next 5 to 6 years is to dump $35 to $42 million into the city. And so we know there's a process to go through, and we want to meet that process. Our engineers here, that helps with the drainage issues, helps with the topography of basically empty land that's been sitting there for the last 18 years. So we know that there's roads that have to be raised up, there's sidewalks that are going to have to be put in. And as Sarah said, we're doing that with our initial project, which is 45 units and 3,000 square feet of new retail. So we feel very confident and comfortable we can work together with the city and the planning commission and make Russellville grow even more than it has been in the last 5, 6 years.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Okay, we've got a list to speak. Y'all want to speak on, to address this? Paul Eddy? It's another item? Okay. All right. Any questions or discussion?
I'd make a motion to approve as presented with stipulation that the conditions recommended by staff are complete.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented for staff's approval or staff's recommendation. Everybody in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move to item 2, vacation of plat at 401 Corey Road, submitted by Paul Eddy on behalf of Jim Walker. We have a staff report.
Yes, sir. Sorry. This is a vacation of plat for the Ferguson property. The Ferguson property was originally platted in the 70s. And so it has sat there for a few days, and only one residential home ever developed on the property. They own all of the property. In this area, you will find larger estate-type lots with undeveloped areas. This property is located off of Shepherd Drive, south of Quarry Road, and north of Old Post Park, and is surrounded by, and all surrounding properties are zoned R1, single-family residential. Every time you consider a vacation, you consider 3 things. The first item is the public trust functions. Does the vacation impair circulation, access, utilities, open space, and/or views? In the event of the plat being entirely vacated, the subdivision to the north, platted after Ferguson property, would be left with only a 20-foot right-of-way, resulting in limited access to their properties. So considering the presence of the subdivision to the north and the undeveloped land to the west, it is reasonable to anticipate the construction of a street in this area to provide access to those properties. Therefore, staff would recommend retaining the right-of-way adjacent to lots 3, 4, and 5, as well as the first 50 feet heading west from lot 3 adjacent to lot 2. Additionally, it is observed that the right-of-way was dedicated along Shepherd Drive adjacent to lots 5 and 6, which should also be preserved to adequately maintain the improved right-of-way for Shepherd Drive. What are the land use impacts regarding the vacation of the right-of-way? Potential development is anticipated. The current owner contemplates selling a portion of their property. So it is feasible to consider that there may be some development in this area, and they would be able to develop as they see fit within the current regulations. And I guess I moved right into public benefits received by vacating the right-of-way. There's no advantage or disadvantage, really. On the one hand, there's no immediate benefits from the current condition. There's no losses either. And as I just stated, it means the property's potential lies in providing the current or future owner with the opportunity to develop in accordance with the existing regulations. And so they could go through and propose a new subdivision in accordance with our regulations if they so choose. The owner has requested that until the property or right-of-way develops, that they be allowed to keep the gate in the current location of the right-of-way. The public health benefit would be that this would discourage citizens from dumping on the property, which has been done in the past and why the gate is there. They would be required to remove the gate at the time of development. So it is staff's recommendation that you forward this application to City Council for approval to vacate the plat with the following requirements. Retain the right-of-way along the north side of the plat adjacent to lots 3, 4, and 5. Retain the right-of-way along the first 50 feet adjacent to lot 2, heading west from lot 3. Retain the right-of-way dedicated along Shepherd Drive, and remove the gate at the time of development within the right-of-way retained along the north property line. As a result of the findings that this property never developed as originally platted, all the lots within the subdivision are owned by the same owner. Vacation of plats outlined in the Land Subdivision Development Code follow the same process as a vacation of right-of-way. There is not an impact to the public trust, land use impacts, and no adverse effects to the public benefit, and no objections filed by any utility company for the vacation. Are there any questions?
Will the water line easement, even though it's not in the exceptions, it does remain? City Corp says they have to keep the right of way and the easement they have, that stays even though it's not in the exceptions.
We would need to make sure that we retain an easement for that water line. I did miss that. And so, yes, we would need to add that as a requirement that we retain the easement as recommended by City Corps. Thank you. I do
Have any
apologize.
comments on this?
I believe Mr. Choate is correct that they did have comments, and I missed that.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Yes, so in addition to the staff recommendations, we would add item number 5 to retain the easement as recommended by City Corps for the water line.
Yeah, they're gonna have to keep that right away.
Okay, are there any more questions? Thank you. Okay, we'll go to David Eddy. You want to speak? Paul Ed, I'm sorry. Have it.
All right, how are you all doing today? So, for those of you I don't know, I'm an attorney here in town. I specialize in a lot of real estate matters. I'm also a licensed title insurance agent with Eddy & Ward Law Firm. So, I've been able to research the title of this property, the boundaries, and I just want to make a few comments about the ownership and the layout here. We've asked that the whole plat be vacated, including those rights-of-ways on the north side of lots, what is this, 3, 4, and 5. If the commission agrees with the city's recommendations, we're still okay to proceed as is. I just want to mention a few things on this area. I don't know if you all are, how familiar you all are with legal descriptions. I'll try not to get in the weeds of technicalities here. Do you all have these plats in front of you that were submitted with everything? It may be easiest to start with the plat of the survey of Mr. Wokers from Hale Martin Associates back from the 90s. Is it on there? That one, yeah, that's a good picture of it. So there's, for those of you who aren't familiar with property descriptions, there's 2 40-acre areas in this particular spot, and between these 40-acre areas, there's a boundary line. You can see it running along the north side of that yellow shaded area right there. So there's a 40 acres to the north, 40 acres to the south. This Wayne Norton subdivision to the north that you can see noted on there, that subdivision ends at the 40 line. And if you also flip over to, is the plat on here, the Ferguson plat? Is the Ferguson plat on here as well, or is that just what they have on paper?
If you keep talking,
Oh, it's fine, I've got it with me, I just don't know if you got it on there, okay. So when the Norton subdivision was developed to the north, like I said, their line ended at this 40 line. There's a Ferguson family, their family members that own this entire 40 to the south that you're looking at on Mr. Woker's survey. And they platted this Ferguson property subdivision. Oh, you're fine, you're fine. And if you pull up this Ferguson property plat in front of you, I want to point out to your attention at the top left corner of this plat, you'll see a little circle with a cross through it, and that says, starting with northwest corner. That's the northwest corner of this 40-acre area. And you're also going to see an arrow with a 5-foot strip coming down to where the actual plat starts. So this plat starts 5 feet south of the corner. Like I said, the Ferguson family owned this whole 40, but what they platted started 5 feet south of the boundary line, and then it runs due east to Shepherd Drive, southwest, and so forth. And so what they actually ended up doing, they didn't plat this north 5 feet of this area. So there's actually a gap now between what is in this Ferguson subdivision and what is in this subdivision to the north. And Mr. Woker owns this whole entire 40 that was formerly owned by the Fergusons. So if we leave the road open, as Sarah has suggested, there still couldn't be any development of this road because they can't extend south beyond this 5-foot strip of land that's not within the plat. It's not within the right-of-way.
Are you talking about where that iron pin is?
Which map are you looking at?
This one?
So that one that's Mr. Woker's survey. No, not that iron pin. I've got this plat in front of me right here.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You can see at the top left, it bumps down 5 feet from that 40 line.
Yeah, we don't have that.
And so if you compare that to Mr. Woker's survey, he's got the whole 40. And actually, you can kind of see this gap. It's not drawn to scale where you can really zoom in on this 5 feet, but on this Hale Martin survey, on the north line, you can kind of make out a double line there. It's a little bolder than the rest of the other boundary lines. So, like I said, if we leave it open, that's, we're okay to proceed, but it's not to the benefit of any owners to the north. They can't build that road down from the plat I pulled for Wayne Norton subdivision. They've got a 25-foot right-of-way along the south line there. It may not be enough for a city street, but it does give them all access to their property. So nobody's landlocked out here. They can always get to their land. And we're also okay with the recommendation that if we have to sign something saying we'd take the gate down if it's in a right of way and some member of the public asks that it be taken down, but if that gate's truly not in a public right of way, I'm asking that we don't be required to sign something saying unconditionally Mr. Woker would have to take this gate down, because there does exist an issue that there's a gap of land here that's not, these owners to the north are not able to access from, so.
Any more questions? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sarah, if that 5 feet is truly not part of the gaps there, and that 5 feet is truly not, is there sufficient room for street improvements from the square footage line?
On the 20 feet, there is not sufficient right-of-way to put a road in there. On the question of the water line from John Choate, that was on the next one. Their letter from City Corps is on the next vacation, and that's the alleyway to retain right-of-way or easement for the water line. This one does not have a water line, so you do not have to add any additional conditions.
Okay, there's no water.
There's no water line, no, sir.
Thank you.
Well, I move to forward the application to the city council for approval, with the recommendations from staff.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, as presented to the city council. We got a second by Smith. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we move to item number 3, vacation of alley located at 207 Arkansas Avenue, submitted by Chris Abington. We have a staff report.
Yes, sir. So this is a vacation of an alley. The approximate address is 207 South Arkansas. It's between 3rd and 2nd Street off of Arkansas, adjacent to the old Exxon station and the appliance store repair area. This is a commercially developed corridor within the downtown commercial business district. There are several businesses and vacant buildings located within this area. There's the appliance retail business and the old service station. And this property and all surrounding properties are zoned C1 within the downtown commercial district. What is the impact of the proposed vacation upon the public trust functions of the right-of-way? Does it vacation impair circulation, access, utilities, open space, or views? This proposal is requesting to vacate an unopened alley between 2 existing businesses. It's an unopened alley. 2 utility companies are requesting retention of the 15-foot easement to be able to maintain their utility lines, the electric line, and a 6-inch sewer line. What are the land use impacts regarding the vacation of right-of-way? There's not an impact. There's no to the public. There is an impact in that there is a non-conforming structure located 7 feet into the alley, and by vacating the alley, the structure is now fully contained within the property lines of the property, giving lending institutions the ability to write a title policy for the property. Otherwise, there is not an impact to the public use of this alley. And what are the public benefit received by vacating the right-of-way? There's neither a benefit received or reduced by vacating this right-of-way, since it's an unopened alley. It's not currently utilized by the public, with the exception of the utility lines where the easement is being retained. So it is staff's recommendation that we forward this application to City Council for approval to vacate a 20-foot right-of-way between 207 South Arkansas and 201 South Arkansas, with the following condition: retain 15 feet as a sewer and public utility easement for the existing sewer line and electric lines located within the alley. As a result of the findings, there is not an impact to the public trust, land use impacts, no adverse effects to the public benefit. There's no objections filed by any utility company for the vacation. Entergy is requesting a 15-foot easement for future maintenance of their utility lines, and City Corporation has a sewer main in this area of the vacation and requests retention of an easement. Are there any questions?
Thank you. All right, Chris Abington. Okay.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. If there's any other items, meeting's adjourned.